Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Nursing Uncharted. I was reflecting a little bit on this episode, getting ready for this recording, and I really couldn't believe that I'm wrapping up my second season of Nursing Uncharted. And we've talked about so many different things this season. Really my focus was mental health, but I never really addressed why and how this podcast has gotten here. And it's because of AMN. And, I am and have always been partial to AMN. I have been exclusive basically with them from my whole travel journey. And I'm not saying this because I do this podcast. I'm saying this because AMN made this podcast happen for me. And I'm just so grateful for that. And I want to highlight that. And I'm super excited that my next guest will be able to touch base on a lot of things that we haven't really talked about on Nursing Uncharted since I've been doing this. And it's important for me to get how I feel about AMN across to the listeners of this podcast. So I'm so excited to introduce my next guest, Audrey Tate. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to dive into everything that we're going to talk about today. And I feel so privileged and glad to be part of the AMN family that is, and this is a theme that will be recurring today, talking about how AMN supports beyond the bedside. And this podcast, this platform is an excellent example of that.
Yes. And I agree. And I think that's why it made me, and this just happened spontaneously right before hopping on here. I'm like, I need to present this episode in a way that's like, this is why we're doing it. And this is like why I have a passion for it. And I'm just so grateful that I'm here hosting this podcast. I had no idea this is where my travel nursing journey would take me. And I'm so grateful for it. And I just want everyone to feel the way I do about AMN. So I am so excited to dive into this with you. And I always start this off with obviously like introducing who you are, what you do with AMN, for AMN, and, something that you're just passionate about right now.
100%. I am a travel nurse recruiter with AMN. I've been here for the last 4 years. I've been a senior recruiter for the last 3. And I think what really pulled me in and has kept me in the travel nurse sphere these last couple of years, my fiance is an ICU nurse. So number one, I do have firsthand everyday experience with what you guys are dealing with and what you see and what the life of a nurse is like, and hearing how, I mean, he's worked in some rough hospitals in the Southern California area, and getting to hear his impact and what he's doing translates to me feeling even more passionate about, providing that staffing support and helping to improve and delegate patient care. So that's why I'm here and why I love it so much.
Well, I love that. And I'm really happy to have met you. And, the conversation that we had, we said this, we're like, I wish we would have just been recording on that intro call that we had, because we touched on so many things that I think, and I'm hoping the conversation takes us back there, because it was a lot of important things that I want other nurses, travel nurses, people thinking about traveling, to hear, because there are many different options when you start traveling. And I am grateful that my recruiter landed on my lap when she did. It was through a mutual friend, and it created this relationship that I never thought that I would have. And, as I said before, this podcast is only here because it is sponsored by AMN Healthcare. And, I really want to just hit that nail on the head one last time before we wrap up the 2025 season. And I am just excited to get started.
Me too. And I love that you touched on that relationship aspect, because it's important to remember, as a traveler, your experience is going to be 100% individual. There is no two travelers that are going to have identical journeys as they're pursuing contracts, when they're off contract, going back to staff per diem, working crisis assignments. And so finding an advocate in a recruiter in a company that supports whatever your journey may look like and is really there to help guide you each step of the way is what makes travel nursing a great career option and a
Yeah.
great career path. So I'm excited for us to talk about that too.
Yeah, and, it's so crazy. Honestly, this conversation happened this morning. I am looking for a new contract, and, I my recruiter texts me because I had a conversation with a manager, and it's like, "Okay, but there's just certain things that we need to, like, try to
Mhm.
tweak, to make it work, just perfectly." And the conversation I had with her, I started off as I'm like, "Okay, I just need you to be, like, my friend right now because I'm torn," like, and that's something that I think is so valuable because I'm doing this alone. Some people have their
Mhm.
travel partner. There are traveling couples, some people are married. They have their friends with them. I'm alone a lot of the times making
Mhm.
the decisions that I'm making. So I rely on my recruiter to be my friend. And it may sound corny and it's like, at the end of the day it's a business whatever, but that relationship and we've talked about this. I actually had my very first recruiter come on, but like
Amazing.
it's so, so important, and I just want to, like, drill that into potential travel nurses' heads to be like, "This if you invest in the relationship, it will pay off." Because I
Yes.
I needed a friend. I needed an opinion to be like, "What do I do?" How to like, "What should I do?" And it was just so nice to have a real conversation, and I felt like it was honest advice, and that's something that I truly value, and I don't know if I would find that anywhere else.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, think about the ask that we as the staffing agency are asking of you guys. Leave your home,
Yeah.
travel across the country, a lot of times solo, to
Mhm.
a brand new city, a brand new state. You get 1 to 3 days to orient, and then there you go. Please work and do a great job.
Yeah.
It's so much. So that initial hurdle of is travel right for me requires a lot of communication between the two of us to decide, is this even an environment that you feel like you could thrive in? Now,
Mhm.
I am always an advocate for giving it a try because you don't know for real until you do it. But learning about what types of environments you feel most comfortable in terms of patient care, learning what you like to do when you're off, because on an assignment, you're only working 3 days out of the week. I want to
Yeah.
make sure that you're going and you can make friends wherever you're at and that you feel that you can build a community in that assignment. And all
Yeah.
of that information helps us put together those curated recommendations and makes it to where when you're on assignment, even if the work is hard, which 99% of the time,
It's
it's
fun.
very hard. That's the
Yeah.
reason why the travel job is posted in the first place. There's some sort of staffing gap that needs to be filled. So
Right.
we expect it to be difficult. I need my travelers to feel 100% supported and that they can come to me with any concerns if I'm going to expect them to do 3 months on an assignment. And
Yeah.
that comes from trust and communication. That's
It
bare
does.
bones, what we got to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, and I think, like and I feel like we have talked about it, not you and I, but, like, in the past, I've talked about this even with other travel nurses,
Yeah.
on and off this podcast about the relationship and trying to explain why that's important, but it is, and it's
Mhm.
easy. It's just like any other relationship you invest in, and we've talked about if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Have
Yeah.
that conversation and let's connect with someone who maybe you vibe with a little bit more. They're just you have common likes, interests, and I
100%.
always say I've always say I'm lucky, but then I think and I'm like, "How have I been lucky?" I'm on my 3rd recruiter, not because of my choice, it's because of advancements in careers, other choices, but I've been assigned now 3 different recruiters, and I've had
Mhm.
the same relationship. Obviously not the same relationship, but the same feelings about the relationship, and that has a foundation of what AMN is, and
Mhm.
that's what I really wanna get to the core of, and, like, why that's that way, you know?
Absolutely. I think honestly, it comes to there's a level of vulnerability required on both sides. And that can be uncomfortable initially. We're meeting you over the phone. We're not necessarily getting to meet
Yeah,
or chat in person. And you, as the traveler, are making such a huge step with your personal life and your career to decide to leave home and go out. And the best way for us to help you with that choice and with that process is to know more about you. And
Yeah.
as the traveler gets more comfortable sharing that kind of thing, talking about the hard stuff, us as recruiters will too. I think of most of my travelers as good friends in
Yeah.
addition to our professional relationship. And I love hearing about stuff beyond just work because I want to
Yeah.
know if you've got, kids that have awesome school things coming up, that triggers to me, looks like we're going to be staying close to home for the next couple of
Right.
months.
Right.
If you've got a spouse who just had a crazy career change and you guys are having to uproot your whole life, what can I do to find you employment that feels a little bit more stable while your spouse is in a state of transition and flux? Those details go such a long way in me providing the best and most personalized recommendations that will meet you where you are, wherever that may be.
Yeah. And that going back to what you said your passion was, like the nursing experience on and off contract. That's reality. We're not going
Mhm.
to be back to back to back contracts.
Yep.
Like I mean, maybe you are. Maybe we are. Maybe we're going to extend. We're going to stay at a place for a year. Great, great, great. But I don't think that's the norm. That's not been my norm.
Uh-huh.
So there have been lulls in between my travel assignments, and it's like what do I do between those assignments? How do I continue to cultivate that relationship or still feel like a member of the AMN team, in between those assignments? And how does that work? And it's always such a interesting thing for me because I'm on the nursing side of it and then
Uh-huh.
you're on this side of it. So what does that look like for you like when a traveler is between assignments?
Yeah, I think this brings into a whole area of our business that is still very much being worked on. And there's so many ideas going around of how we can make it even better. But number one, we have different divisions where if full-time travel is not the move for you right now, we can staff you local. We can staff you per diem. If you're looking for stuff that's more short term and requires something that's a little bit more flexible, we staff crisis. We can meet all of that there. But
Mhm.
beyond work assignments, we're going to talk about Passport a lot, but the
Yes.
Passport app brings in a
Yeah.
community aspect. You
Mhm.
can, whether you're on contract or off, you can see what's going on in your area or what's maybe going on somewhere that you want to be. You can see traveler experiences, again, whether you're on assignment or not, engaging with those blogs, community stories, information about different assignment locations. And then in addition to that, we've got AMN's driven community engagement. So if you're looking for more mission style work, we worked with the Esperanza project a couple of weeks ago out in Guatemala. We've been doing that for
Yeah.
years. So if you're looking for something to fulfill you that's beyond just a contract, so much to offer. So much
Yeah.
to talk about, so much to share, and all of those things are life and experience enriching, and I think they're so valuable.
They are, and I learned, I just recorded an episode reflecting on TravCon, and
Mhm.
was with Nicole, and she has actually gone to Guatemala, and
Mhm.
Guatemala, right? Yes.
Yes.
I had like a little I was like, "Wait, squirrel, is that right?" And I didn't know. I really didn't know much about that. I've heard other nurses talking about going on nursing like mission trips, and
Mhm.
I didn't know that, AMN had that involvement to allow me to maybe have that outlet to go. So,
Yeah.
it's I'm still learning. I've been doing this now 6 years. It's like my 6-year anniversary, oddly enough, this week. That's crazy. I just realized that, but, um, wow, yeah. So it's just nice that I continue to learn more opportunities, and there's not always that big stress like, "Okay, my assignment's ending in 2 weeks. What do I do? What do I need to do?" And the whole per diem aspect, I was able to utilize that within my first year of with AMN, and I was like, "Wait, this is an option? Like, this is so
Mhm.
cool." And, it gives you that freedom and that flexibility, but still allows you to be like, "Well, if I need to get a paycheck, I can pick up some shifts?" And I think that those are really amazing options that I don't know everyone knows about. If I'm still learning about it and I feel that I've fully invested in AMN, if
Yeah.
I'm still learning about that, I feel like a lot of people probably don't know that these are options.
100%. And that's an area of opportunity for us as well, is that visibility aspect, because we want you guys to be engaged and involved with that.
Mhm.
And I have to say, Nicole's my director and she's awesome. I loved her episode.
Love her.
She's amazing. I got to go to TravCon, not this past year, but the year prior.
Oh, nice.
Loved it. So much fun. What an insane conference with so many fun things for you guys, but just the networking opportunities
Oh,
are
yeah.
insane.
Right.
Um, but the community aspect, the additional projects, the per diem, you guys having access to, again, what sorts of opportunities, and I'm not even going to limit it to work, but what sorts of
Mhm.
opportunities that will meet you where you're at. Because we can get real and talk about the state of the world for a second. Things
Huh.
are expensive. Cost of living
Yes.
is crazy. I
Yes.
have multiple travelers that to make ends meet right now, they have to hold down multiple jobs.
Yeah.
And sometimes that does not mean that a single travel contract is going to
Yeah.
do it. So
Yeah.
being able to support, and I'll add in case you didn't know, you can do per diem and travel at the same time. You can do them
Okay.
concurrently. Um, Being able to help you guys and support with that financial element and the scheduling flexibility is what we're about. And again, we
Uh,
really want to make that process as smooth as possible. So more developments and improvements to come over time with that.
I love that. I actually didn't when you said it, maybe you didn't know this, I'm like, "Yeah, I knew that." And then I'm like, "Wait a second, no. I actually didn't know that." Like, to be able to
Hmm.
work which is crazy because if you get a per diem at a hospital, you can't work at the hospital within their system
Right.
full time and then have a per diem at a different hospital. They don't a lot of
Right.
hospital systems don't allow that. So that's actually a really nice opportunity that you can do. So, yes, I knew that, but no, I didn't know that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since it's agency, like since we're the
Yeah.
employer, the staffer,
Yeah.
you don't have an internal relationship, whether you're per
Right.
diem or not. So you're basically just doing contracts in the area and that's what it is.
You, like, just kinda blew my mind, and I'm like, "Why did that just blow my mind?" I feel like I feel like I knew that, but no, you're right, it's almost like not a loophole because I don't like that word and that analogy, but it is a way for you to kinda get everything you want
Hmm.
without having, the compete or sign what non-compete or whatever
Yep.
it's called, or, and that's what's crazy is, like, the hospital system that my per diem is in, I love it, I'm happy there,
Hmm.
I'm really grateful for it, but it limits me where I can go
Yep.
because now they have a very large hospital system that I can't work anywhere
Right.
else, but I was previously that was my first, per diem travel
Oh,
agency job
awesome.
was
Yeah.
through the same hospital, and I did take a travel assignment, but I didn't work them
At the same
consecutively.
time, but it
Yeah, but it
was
was just
close.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I knew I was allowed to, so that's a
Hmm.
really I'm glad you said that because
Yeah.
that's a really good point.
Good to know.
Thank
Go
you.
back to your recruiter and be like, hey, maybe in the future.
Yeah, no, that's actually really good to know because I was thinking if I because I was looking into that now with
Hmm.
we talk about the state the where the world is now, and, it's expensive, and I was just so crazy that all these conversations happened and we're recording this, but yesterday I was having a conversation with a doctor, and he was saying that he's looking to get credentialed elsewhere because he needs to have he need I don't shouldn't say need, I'm putting words in his mouth, but he's looking
Yeah.
to, get a second job, and I'm like, What is this? Like, how are we not able to work a full-time job and afford to live in the area where these hospitals are?" That is
Yeah.
mind-blowing to me. Like,
Yeah.
so, it's crazy, and this was something that was at the top of the list that I wanted to talk about that we haven't really hit on right now, but why are nurses traveling right now? Because even that has changed. That whole world is not what it was even pre-COVID, but we're not in the
Totally.
same world that we were pre-COVID. The rates that were pre-COVID supported the cost of living,
Yep.
and now we're not really seeing that.
Yeah. I definitely think, and there's going to be outliers in every
Right,
situation.
right.
Pay is not the biggest driver anymore, and it hasn't been for years at this point. What I am hearing and what I'm experiencing is number one, I still have a ton of travelers who love the flexibility. They don't
Yeah.
want to be tied down to a staff job. And with COVID, there were tons of healthcare systems that saw massive leadership changes that resulted in, policy and staffing changes at the lower level that, my travelers didn't love. It
Yeah.
didn't feel safe or sustainable for them anymore. And so travel became a way to still have that employment option, still be networking, but not necessarily tied to a 1 year or 2 year contract somewhere that they didn't have management support. So that flexibility is still a huge piece. And then I
Yeah.
have lots of travelers who their home base is maybe in a higher cost of living area, and they are trying to make that dollar go further. So they're taking assignments in, locations like the East Coast or the Southeast where expenses are a bit more manageable. And regardless of what the rate is in that area, it's
Yeah.
going further for them. It just balances out a little bit better.
That's a really good point, 'cause that's kinda where I'm at right now, like,
Mhm.
the conversation like, I'm kind of torn between, I kinda got offered a position to be a little bit more than per diem,
Mhm.
and it's so exciting, and then when they offer you that position, you're like, "Wait, wait, what do I do? I can't just leave when I want to? Wait, hold on." So it's terrifying. So, like, that's a really good point that, you can even if like, if I'm looking to travel, but I still have
Mhm.
my home base that's expensive, you know, going elsewhere for a travel assignment that may not be the best money, it's still more money than you would be making as a full-time a lot of the times,
Yep.
and you're not gonna spend as much where you're traveling to. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're,
So
like,
it's you
blowing my
still
mind today. Why the You're, like, making the math right now.
and that's the thing is everyone's reason is it's so personal. And there's not a single recruiter, there's not a single agency, there's not even another single nurse that can tell you whether traveling is right for you or not. That
Yeah.
is 100% personal. The best thing that I can do is give you all of the information and resources possible and
Mhm.
talk you through what those different options would look like and see if it makes sense. And I think one thing that our team does really well and something that I strive to do with every single person I connect with is you can tell me, "Hey, this is not the move for me within the next 6 months. It's not quite the right time." If you call me 6 months later, you can guarantee I'm gonna pick up and we're gonna figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
that, time spent away, whether you're traveling or not, I am still 100% here to, again, meet you where you're at and make sure we're finding the best opportunity for you at that time.
Yeah, and to make this go full circle, that just goes back to the fundamentals of that relationship and
Yep.
understanding and, like, not throwing every single job option at the
Mhm.
traveler, right? Like, you know your boundaries, just like any relationship, you set boundaries, and it's basically what it is, and that's what keeps someone there. That's what has kept me here, to be completely, fully transparent, which I try to 100% be on this podcast. Maybe sometimes a little too much, but that really is why I stay, because it's that is something that I have not been able to match.
Yep.
And, and again, I say I'm lucky, but I think that every travel nurse out there has that opportunity to have that same relationship and feeling about the relationship as much as I do. That's something
100%.
that everyone should be able to feel. And, I think I've talked about it before, but I think we're hitting things a little bit differently that I hope will make sense to the people that are listening.
I hope so too. And that's why I'm so glad that we have this platform for you to talk
Yeah.
about and talk about your personal experiences. And again, kind of pull back the curtain on what being a traveler is, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of
Yeah.
it, and just kind of shed some light on that because it's a massive personal and professional commitment that could pay off I mean, reaping rewards over and over and over
Yeah.
again. The networking, getting your foot in the door with the top healthcare systems across the
Yeah.
country, being able to revisit those and it just or even achieving career milestones, if being an RN is not the long-term plan, and your goal is to go back to school, get an advanced degree, or go the nursing management route, we
Yeah.
have options, teams, and divisions to support you each step of the way.
Right, which we will definitely get into that a little bit more, but that's huge. It's
Hmm.
not just, okay, I can bounce from, this company to this company to this company. There's longevity here.
Yes.
There's that, you know, like longevity. There's no other word. That's really what it is, and the capability of being able to do that. And I think I had this conversation with my recruiter today. We talked about, she was like, I'm Generation X, not me. She was saying that she's Generation, I think I'm a millennial. I don't know. I'm old at this point. Who cares? I'm not Gen Z or whatever. So, she was saying, when like our parents, you get a job, you stay with that company, you invest in that company because that company invests in you.
Hmm.
And you work, you retire, you get your pension, and you're happy.
Hmm.
That's, like, not the world that we live in right now,
Nope,
unfortunately. So the
not at all.
opportunity. Right, and especially as nurses, things are really hot right now. I won't touch on why it's really hot right now, but things are hot here in California right now,
Yep.
and it comes down to just that value, and we're losing, I think as healthcare providers in all aspects of what that is, we're losing that feeling of being valued, and, like, what we
Hmm.
do is meaningful and purposeful, and it is. Like, you can't have a country without hospitals, without healthcare, without people with compassion that care about you as a person, not just a patient, but you as a person. And
Yeah.
how do you expect people to show up when you're not showing up for them? And that's sad. And that's, kind of the turmoil of healthcare in, in the world right now. I mean, I can speak for America, but I'm sure things are elsewhere not like it used to be. And I think that the longevity you have being able in with AMN is huge because there is investment on both sides of that. And I think it's an opportunity that people should take advantage of.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It makes me on a weekly basis at this point, I'm having some sort of conversation where I'm so disappointed with the treatment and just kind of sometimes the general attitude towards healthcare professionals as a whole, but especially
Mhm.
nurses. I hear
Yeah,
it from my fiance on the, staff permanent side, and then I spend hours every single week talking to travelers.
yeah.
And I just can't believe that we have, and I say we loosely because it's definitely above our
No,
heads, but that there's this
you're we.
system
You're
in
in the we.
place that there's this system in place that is taking for granted what you guys are doing and the sacrifice and how much you put out, again, whether you're traveling or not, caring for people's family members and working these insane hours and not being able to take breaks all the time and having these insanely high expectations. And if things go wrong, you're the first one that they're
Yeah,
going to. I hate that part of it. And so
yeah,
being able to try and pivot that and take that nurse who's feeling undervalued or not appreciated and put her somewhere where she can see every single day that she's making a difference is
yeah,
what clicked for me with this job. And that was the whole turning point. And so I want to continue to do that every
yeah,
day. And being able to support them again, whether you're still a nurse right now and that's what you want to do, or wanting to move beyond that and develop those
yeah.
skills professionally. I love that I'm part of a company that supports that.
Yeah, and that has that opportunity. I mean, it's
Yes.
it's huge, and I think that we definitely deviated from where we wanted this conversation to go, but I love it because I think that what that is the story of my life. I think that I have, like, my friend had this note in her phone that says "squirrels in Mexico" from, like, when we went to Vegas, and she's like, "What did this mean?" And I'm like, "Because we kept squirreling. We're like, why don't we just go on vacation to Mexico?" And then it turned into, "Let's be squirrels in Mexico." It was, like, crazy, but that's just a
Love
story
it.
of my life. So that's why these episodes, it's like, oh, I try to keep myself in line, have my little bullet points, but it's gonna go. And that's what I love about it, is that these
Yeah.
conversations become real conversations. I actually forgot we were recording for a second because I just feel like our conversation is like, it's just a real life conversation. And,
Yeah.
just the key points of what you just said is like, the appreciation and respect that I feel from my recruiter, because that's who I deal with most
Right.
of the time. But even like I had a bad experience on, multiple assignments, let's be honest, but
Mhm.
like I had a really bad experience and I couldn't believe what the hospital was doing to me. And I mentioned something in just a transient way to my recruiter, and she like took it upon herself to get me on the phone with someone that listened to me, heard my story, knew what happened was wrong, and fixed it. Or
Yeah.
made not fixed it, but, like, made it right. And I'm like, "Who would do that? Who has to do that? No one has to do that." There's heart. When there's heart in a company and there's heart in the employees of that company, that's what makes success, and that's what has kept me here and brought me in. So I just again, I
I
could just
love
say
that.
it over and over, but, like, it's true life things that happened, and even when I tell what happened, I have to be careful because I don't wanna say exactly, like, what
Right,
happened, because
right.
then people are gonna run with it and say, "Well, whoa, whoa, whoa." But, what I want people to understand that, like, you're not alone, and if you truly are feeling alone, pick up the phone and have a
Mhm.
conversation, because pretty sure if you're feeling that way and you did the right thing, that, you're gonna have someone in your corner that, sometimes the hospitals are just gonna be like, "Nope, no go, whatever." But like, is you still feel valued at the end of the day with
Yeah.
whatever the result of that would be, that's what I value. And I think a lot of nurses would say the same thing. I'd rather get in trouble for doing the right thing than fly under the radar by doing the wrong thing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And being number one, brave enough to have those conversations with your recruiter is amazing. Like that again speaks to a level of vulnerability and trust that is huge. And our team members, I mean, your recruiters, obviously your main point of contact, but
Yeah.
our clinical managers are the ones who are
Oh,
there
yeah.
that have
Love them.
they're amazing, and they are bombarded with questions from us all day long. Because I don't know,
Yeah.
some people may or may not know this. Most recruiters do not have a clinical background. So
Right.
I didn't go to nursing school or anything. I tried. I did 2 years as a biosci major, discovered that I just, wasn't built for that, and that's okay.
Good for you for
We
knowing that, though. I mean, that takes a lot of courage to know that's not the right fit.
Yeah, I think the transcripts and the grades coming back are what told me, "Hey, I don't think this is the best
Well,
fit for you." But that's
details.
all right. That's all right. I feel like I'm in a role that's much better suited to my strengths, but we lean on our clinical team for that on assignment support because I'm in a home office. I can't get, out to the East Coast or to the Midwest to say,
Yeah.
"Don't you dare treat my nurse like that. This is what we're going to do." So we have that liaison and that help. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it does me as the recruiter, it does us as a company no good if you hate your job. And if you're
Yeah.
every single day, there's anxiety and stress around reporting to work, that doesn't help anybody. So those
No.
conversations are huge in feeling like, let's talk about what has gone well, what hasn't gone well. Let's keep that in mind, log that away for future assignments, and let's talk about what's going to make you feel the most comfortable moving forward. And it is always and should always be like a solution oriented conversation. And I do feel like
Mhm.
our team really, really excels at that.
Yeah, and something I've had conversations with the clinical team, when I've had, specific issues. And it's
Yeah.
so funny because I tell my recruiter, I'm like, this happened in the NG tube, and then this, and then they had a pneumo, and then they got intubated, and then, and they're just like, uh huh.
Uh-huh. We
And then I get on the
we pick some of it up, but most of the time I'm like, wow,
what?
oh my gosh, that sounds crazy.
What a rough day. Um, yeah, but, like, with the clinical team, I don't know if this and maybe you can answer this, maybe you can't, but do they get assigned I'm NICU, so, like, are there, like, maternal child health clinical people that get assigned to those nurses? Because I feel like every time I talk to someone, they know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm like, "Well, I'm in the NICU." "Oh, yeah, I've worked in the NICU, I've worked here and there," and I'm like, "Huh? Like, how?" Like,
They
how do you know?
typically
Because
are assigned by hospital or by healthcare system or sometimes by
okay,
region, but
okay,
these are to get in that role, these are nurses and NPs with decades of experience
yeah,
cumulatively. A lot of them have traveled themselves, so and some of them were even travelers where you guys are on assignment now. So they really
yeah.
have been foot in the door on the ground and can relate in a way that even the best recruiters who we will do our best and will listen to everything that we just can't in that exact moment. And so they are
Yeah.
excellent partners for us to be able to lean on when it comes to helping you guys.
Oh, that's good to know. That's actually really good to know that it's, that a lot of them have that travel experience because that's
Uh-huh.
like that you're able to relate. And I feel like every conversation I had, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this person hears me. They understand."
Yes.
Like, and that really it really makes a difference. So I like that that extra step is like thought about when getting those individuals into those positions. I think that's nice to know because I was like,
Yeah.
"What? Maybe I'm just lucky again, right?"
No, this is all carefully put together to make sure
Yeah.
that it was exactly what you
Look
needed.
at that. Okay, so before like I feel like I really wanted to get into we really covered a lot about the relationship more than I was even expecting to get into. And thank you for, sharing all of that because I think that
Yeah.
this is a good vulnerable conversation between both of us to just hit on those things that I think all of these thoughts go through the travelers' minds and nurses'
Yes.
minds thinking about traveling and just nurses in general. But something I really want to touch on is the AMN passport. I haven't
Yes.
been able to do that on an episode and you have a passion for it. I have a passion for it. So like let's kind of break that down and something that I'm going to start with this even though I was going to end with it, but I think it's a good place to start is you use the term like passport champion. And like
Uh-huh.
that just kind of like really motivated me to like open it up and go through it and like really understand what the passport is. And,
Uh-huh.
I have access to another like app and the passport is so different than any other app that I've seen because of the things that you touched on, the community engagement,
Uh-huh.
the impact that you have on the communities that you serve as a traveler, the blogs from other travelers. Like there's so much to it. So I don't know where you want to start, but I know you love it so much too. So open that up for me.
Yes, I think the first and most important thing that I want to add is that this app really was built and developed by travelers for travelers. So much there were focus groups and panels and feedback. And that's one of the beautiful things about Passport is that it is updating and changing all the time because
Yeah.
we're hearing that feedback, we're hearing what's going well, we're hearing what maybe needs to be tweaked, and we want it to be a one-stop full service stop for you guys. Again, whether you're traveling or in between or looking for
Yeah.
a different kind of gig, Passport will meet you there. Um, the things that I love most about it are number one, the visibility aspect. You can view all available positions. You can see pay information. You can see location and scheduling. And that is huge. I don't know, when you're on like Indeed or LinkedIn or something and you have to apply to get
Yeah.
compensation details, that just number one takes so much time and it doesn't
Mhm.
serve you when we're in a market that's very competitive and jobs fill so
Yeah.
quickly. So I love that piece of it. I love that we have integrated the credentialing and compliance element so that you've got one platform where you can upload your credentials and communicate with all the team members that will kind of have
Yeah.
a hand in your file. And then again, that community engagement aspect, you get to actually see your impact based on the assignments that you've done. You get to see
Yeah.
how many patient lives you've touched. And
Yeah.
I mean, what better way to generate value and pride in what you guys are doing than actually getting to see it and having that be visible?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing, and I found that, I would say a couple years ago, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
"Impact? What's my impact?" And I clicked it, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is actually really interesting." And it is, it's not okay, people will be like, "Well, why do I need to see that?" But it's like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is what I've done over my 6 years of traveling." It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. It feels, I mean, you can see it when you're working your shifts and you can feel what you're doing and you guys make connections with patients and you'll get references and you'll get referrals and you'll get all of this, but this is a data landscape to show
Mhm.
literally what you being on contract, what that did for that community, for that area, for those patients. And
Yeah.
it just again brings to the top what kind of difference you guys are making. And I want you to feel that pride when you're on assignment with me beyond just, okay, I completed my contract. And Passport being an ever developing platform, we're still absolutely working to show that, if you're doing that per diem, either at the same time or in between, making that a super seamless transition so that
Yeah.
you and your recruiter get to talk about all the fun stuff and the
Yeah.
credentialing, nitpicky, whatever can be done 100%, independently.
And it is nice too because I can actually get on there and see when my licenses expire.
Hmm.
'Cause,
That's
like,
huge.
when you carry multiple licenses, which unfortunately my home state is not a compact state, so
Uh-huh.
I have to carry a lot of them. You get kinda lost, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, my license is gonna expire at the end of September," and then I looked on there, and I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm good till next year." So
Hmm.
it actually it helps to keep me kind of more organized, and
Yes.
all of your health documents are there. Like, I scrolled through again, like, when we had our initial meeting, I opened it up and was looking and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this goes all the way back to when I started doing this." And it has all my, like, vaccination records
Yep.
and, like, all of that stuff, and it's literally right there, which is super helpful. Even if you're, applying for a different job, like a per diem job somewhere, like a permanent position, like, you have all of that stuff in a in one spot, which I think is extremely helpful.
It's 100% accessible for sure. Because you're right. You guys are responsible for, and I mean, these boards of nursing with the different requirements, and this license expires on your birthday. This license expires 72 days after your birthday every 3 years. Oh my gosh. How
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
even
How
stay
do
on
I
top
keep
of
track?
that? Yeah. So having one single place where you can view all of that is massive.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've done a couple little videos for, like, social about, like, my favorite feature of Passport, and something I think that's funny is you saying that it is ever changing.
Mhm.
My favorite feature has, like, changed multiple times because I said the one time, "Oh, it was like the resume," because 'cause it'll build you a resume that you can export out of the app to
Yep.
have, which I think is super cool and super helpful because when you're going through and you have to list every single hospital that you've worked at, that takes a lot of time. So when that's
Uh-huh.
done for you, the dates, all of that stuff, it's super helpful. And then the next time, it's the auto submission because my specialty is not it's a small community of us and there's not many jobs and there's a lot of us. So
Uh-huh.
having your preferences set up to, just auto submit to these places eliminates that time that you could have potentially lost the job if you were waiting for, your recruiter to reach out to you or you open the app and scroll through. I do think it's ever changing and I've seen that, I've experienced that over the 6 years. I think
Uh-huh.
how old is the app? Do you know?
Oh my gosh. I think its initial release was around COVID time, like
Yeah.
the platform as we recognize it now.
Yeah, because
It looks so
I
different
don't remember
than
yeah,
then.
I don't remember having it when I started, but I
Mhm.
feel like I remember being like, "Oh, there's an app now." And I'm like, "What?"
Uh-huh.
And using it, but it has changed and it has just continued to get better. And
Yes.
I also love the community engagement and like or the blogs, like
Mhm.
seeing everyone else's experience, and we joked and I'm like, it would be nice to be able to connect with people that have potentially traveled to that hospital in your department to, like, connect with them, so maybe we can manifest that for the future because to get real insight, you have your Facebook pages, you have,
Of
your
course.
communities of people that you've met along your travels that you can reach back to, but it would be kinda nice to get that firsthand, you know, e experience from someone of, like,
Totally.
what it's like or, like, how do I find housing, all of these different things. I think I have good feelings it's gonna come soon.
I love it. We have so many things on the list of ideas, again, on how to make it better. I love the idea of a chat feature because I think especially if you're, I mean, really at any point in your travel career, but especially when I'm talking to first time travelers who are feeling
Yeah,
very nervous about the whole thing. I love trying to connect them with travelers that are on assignment there currently or in the area and saying,
yeah,
you can reach out if you want to, but if you need a community, if you need people that are in your shoes and are going to be, they had their first day, you're going to have your first day. I love the idea of getting you guys connected because then you develop, professional relationships,
yeah,
friendships, but you can also just get your bearings. And it's another element of making sure that you feel not alone on these
yeah,
assignments because it's a lot. It's a lot
it
to
is.
be away from home and family and be somewhere new. And your mental and physical well being is just as important as like your clinical competency and where you're at. It's just as
Right.
important and it
Well,
should
they go
be a
hand in
huge
hand.
priority.
I mean,
Yes.
like you said, if you're walking in and this happened to me, I walked in every day dreading to go to the job.
Mm,
It's not a good fit.
no,
It's not a good fit, and that's okay. It may not be a good fit now, it doesn't mean forever, but, like, it
exactly.
it happens, and you're not gonna be the best version of yourself, you're not gonna be able to put your best foot forward because you're not feeling 100% you and
Right.
100% yourself, so, I think it's okay to talk about that and to, like, that be the scenario. And
Yeah.
I love the idea of, like, a mentorship. Sorry, I'm just, like, manifesting things right now. Like,
I love it.
I'm trying to build my position with AMN. So, but, like, there are times when I'm just like, I need to talk to someone that gets it, and you have your clinical managers, but they have other duties too. They can't just like hop on the phone and have that phone call. But it would be a really nice thing, and I do think the recruiters are good about that. You're gonna,
Mhm.
or you guys are close enough. It is funny, like, sorry, squirrel going to TravCon. Everyone knew who everyone was. And I'm like, how
Mhm.
many recruiters are there? How do you know everyone? So like obviously you're gonna know someone's gonna know someone that can connect you with that person. And I think
Yes.
it's a good point to point out that, that option is is there. You don't have to do it. But like if you're really feeling a certain way, someone else may be like, heck yeah, get them on the phone. I'll help them, or, oh, they haven't been able to make any friends or they're feeling lonely, come on over. Like, let's go have dinner, It's I think that that's a good thing, and I love that you do that, and I think that every recruiter I've dealt with or talked to has seemed to be the same type of person that would do that. So,
I
that's
love that.
also nurses listening, have those conversations,
Oh my gosh,
and
yeah.
try to connect, right? Because there is it's a big company, but at the core, it is kinda small. So, you are able to connect with everyone.
Yeah, your group, your assigned, group of people may be a little bit different contract to contract, but you are gonna have a core knit of like this is who you communicate
Mhm.
with, this is who you talk with. And being connected with travelers in the area doesn't even necessarily have to be about establishing, friendships or community for assignment related questions. But if you're struggling to find, housing or you're looking for ways to, ad- ad- adjust those housing costs or share that, that could be a
Mhm.
great way for us to get you connected. We can
Yeah,
talk about transportation. If you're looking for a mentor to help with advancing your career, depending on certifications or obtaining new licenses, those connections are valuable. And right
yeah,
now, the online resources for that kind of thing are a little bit confusing and not always easy to navigate. So having a real person that you can talk to via a platform, hopefully,
yeah,
would be
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, I agree. And, I think you saying on, advancing your career, I wanna circle back to that. I wanna go
Yes.
back to that, infamous saying that has been said to me all throughout this year, and I have been wanting to talk about this on an episode. And I don't fully understand it, but I you have touched on so many things today that like now I'm understanding it and you've explained it really well. But it has been said multiple times by multiple people. I want to start and end my career with AMN, or the goal is to start and end your career with AMN. What does that mean? What does that look like?
I love it. I love it. Well, I'll start first. Typically travel is not necessarily going to be the environment for new grads, right? Typically, you should
Yeah.
have established skills and experience because you're going on and you're not getting a lot of training. That being said, we have absolutely staffed in the past new grad opportunities that allow fresh baby nurses to dip their feet in and learn on the job skills with a
Mhm.
full support and education opportunity. Then when it comes to travel, we're talking about contracts, we're talking about development. We work with, teaching in magnet hospitals all across the country. So that ability, the skills that you can acquire there, the network that you're building, we're helping support you to become a more well-rounded healthcare professional. Through Passport, you can also access our learning center, which has those free CEUs and certification help. So if you're looking
Love that.
to either renew something for a license or you want to try something new, obtain a new certification, obtain a new skill, again, to develop and round out your professional scope, we have options to support you with that.
Oh,
And
wow.
I have a ton of ideas that we have talked about in regards to incentivizing and rewarding travelers that prioritize that sort of development. Because
Yeah.
AMN, we pride ourselves and our goal is always to be presenting the best possible candidates for these jobs. And we do.
Yeah.
We have the highest quality nurses on the market. And for everyone that is going that extra mile and is really wanting to put their best foot forward, you guys should be recognized for that. And
Yeah.
I know that we have a supportive environment that encourages it. And I think there's opportunities for us to take it even one step further so that you see that value and that value comes back to you.
Yeah, we talked. You just reminded me, we talked about that. We talked about, like,
Yes.
my RNC. I have my certification for NICU, and it's like I go to these hospitals and these nurses are wearing pins, they're wearing their badges, celebrating that they're a certified nurse or they're RNC, NIC, or, NCC, like, whatever they have, and it's like, well, as a traveler, you're like, "Well, yeah, I have that too." You know and
Hmm.
it's like, so I do, I love that, and I love that that passion is there, that acknowledgement is there, like, you're recognizing it, and it's a work in progress right now, but, like, those are things that, you work really, really hard. I mean, I didn't tell anyone I was taking that exam because it was hard, and I didn't
Yep.
wanna fail. And if I failed, I didn't want anyone to know I failed, so, thankfully, I did not. I passed, but, it's a lot. You invest a lot of your time, you invest a lot of money. These aren't cheap. The
Yep.
education, like, I went to education reviews. You pay for your study materials. It's expensive. And you invest yourself, you invest your money, you invest your time, you invest all of these things, and then you go travel, and it's like, "Okay, cool." And
Yeah.
it's weird. And so I love that you brought that up in our first conversation. I'm so glad you remembered it again because it slipped my mind, but I think that those things are huge, and I think that I'm excited to see what's to come with that.
Oh, 100%. We brought it up in a meeting recently, and I think it's a huge area for us to focus on because, again, like you said, it's such a massive investment of your guys' time, effort,
Mhm.
resources, money. And that should be recognized and celebrated, whether you're a traveler or per diem nurse or a full-time nurse. Like you took that extra step and there should be recognition for that. And I love the
Mhm.
idea of Passport being a way to include that recognition. I think in our first meeting, we had talked about the idea of like passport badges and recognizing those advanced
Oh, yeah.
certifications. Um,
Yeah.
Another thing that I am hearing from my travelers when they're going on a contract is a lot of times they're getting there and they are the senior most nurse on that unit. They're working with a bunch of newbies. And that could be an
Yeah.
excellent learning opportunity. I definitely think there's some pros there. But when you sign up as a traveler, you're not necessarily going in to be a preceptor or an educator. And for travelers that have that experience and feel comfortable taking that on, that should be recognized as well. And that should be celebrated. because you are at that
Right.
point going above and beyond the terms of your contract as a travel nurse.
Yeah.
And it's such an important and integral role. If these hospitals are going to adjust their staffing situation and get it, I mean, it's hard because it's a full cycle thing. We want travel to be around forever, but the goal is that hospitals are so well staffed and everything is so
Yeah.
great that travel isn't needed. And to get
Yeah.
them on that path, we got to train new nurses. We got to get them ready
Yeah.
and develop those skills. And you guys that have been doing this for so many years can be a great way to achieve that as well.
Yeah, and, one of the assignments I was on, it was a newer unit that opened, and
Hmm.
there was a new manager, and she kinda was left a unit that wasn't really tucked in, and
Yeah.
her and I worked together. I was there almost a year. It was I when I reflect back, it's probably one of my favorite assignments. I had the most issues on that assignment, but, like, the people I worked with and what I was able to do, because I think something I wanna preference this first before I tell this story is, as a traveler, sometimes I do, this is a personal feeling, feel unappreciated
Hmm.
from the fellow nurses just because it's
Hmm.
like they don't know you. So, like, of course, you can't I can't walk in there and be like, "Here's my resume, treat me that way because here's my
Right.
resume." Like, I get that you kinda have to earn that respect a little bit, but, I come in with a huge skill set, and I'm not a cocky person, but I'm very confident in the hard work that I have put into my career, and I
Yeah.
will stand on it. And, it's so discouraging sometimes as a traveler to feel like, okay, like, they don't even think I can put an IV in a kid, and
Hmm.
I was a transport nurse. I was intubating babies. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, like, so crazy to me that, like, I have to constantly prove myself, and that can be exhausting. But on this travel assignment, they recognize that about me. I created an entire onboarding process for all
Wow.
of their new staff. I oriented every single traveler that came in, but, like, they didn't really need orienting, but there was a newer nurse, like, a year experience, and,
Yeah.
I kinda helped her, like, showed her what I could, and then all of their new hires,
Wow.
I oriented them as a traveler, and they were so appreciative of it. I found an error in their system with a TPN ordering that, was system wide. And I was like, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. And, they recognize, I mean, I got like a great catch award. I got like a parking spot. It was a whole big thing. It was great. It was great. But like
Love that.
it, I love that there are those opportunities in travel assignments where, just like you said, you walk in, you're the most senior. I was probably one of the youngest age wise to work there, but they were newer to the NICU, and I was able to, like, pass it on, and, like, that's so fulfilling as a nurse, and I think that, a lot of nurses will feel that, if not every nurse wants to feel that, to, like, spread your knowledge and share what you have to, like, make everyone, a better nurse at the end of the day. Like, I love that, and it was such a rewarding opportunity, and I wouldn't have had that as a staff nurse. That's something that was just a really amazing opportunity I had as a travel nurse to do, and I still talk to
Totally.
every single person at that hospital, and like I said,
I
this was
love
a
that.
hospital that I it was one of the worst things that ever happened to me happened at that hospital, but not from my peers. This happened from a system-wide down, and this is when AMN had my back. So, it just was such an eye-opening experience and such a rewarding experience. And it would be nice, like, I felt very rewarded in that, and so I'm not saying I want anything else, but, like, it would be nice to, like, when things like that happen, because 'cause I'm sure I'm not the only person that this has
Of
happened to, like,
course.
I'm
Yeah.
sure there are many, many situations. To have that recognition, and maybe that be part of, like, the app, like, "Hey," not star nurse, I hate that, but, like, look at this scenario that happened, look at this situation that happened, and, like, kudos to this person. We have, like,
Yes.
a backbone award at work, like, those things, they matter, like, it's a little pin you wear, but, like, it's cool, everyone wants a a vertebrae pin, that's freaking cool.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, so, like, those little things, like, matter, and I love that.
They do. They do.
Yeah, I feel like you and I could go on and on and on. I think we touched on so many important things, and I thank you so much for being here, being a guest, talking about these things, and, just really shedding light on some topics that I think needed to happen.
I agree. Thank you again just so much for having me. And I love this platform so, so much. And I can't wait to see where it goes and how it grows. And I had a wonderful chat with you today.
Me too. Me too. Thank you so much. Hopefully we can do it again sometime soon. Thank you for tuning in to Nursing Uncharted. You can learn more about this episode and our show on our website at amnhealthcare.com. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform. You can also find show updates and nursing opportunities on our Instagram at AMN Nurse. Special thanks to AMN Healthcare for making this show possible.